I forgot the intro music, Cam. Hit
Oh,
us.
any intro? No, let's do this. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the F6 Football Podcast. Cam Copeland here, as always, with Alex Roglin. And you know what? Hiccups come, and you just got to roll with the punches. For instance, right now, I am sitting in the front room of my soon-to-be in-laws' house with who knows what kind of internet connection, with a laptop on my lap, but we are still bringing you a show today. And again, Alex, it's Friday. It's Friday once again. That's 3 straight weeks. May as well just change the schedule at this point. But we will just see how it goes from here. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Cam. Thank you. And yeah, that was my fault on the controls. But everybody, not only are Cam and I experts in football, but we have had to also become experts in how to manage and post and edit and all the kinds of other things in the podcast world. So as Cam said, we're learning as we go, but we're having a lot of fun along the way. So, hey, a nice thing about Fridays is it does give us that, we got that Thursday night game already in. So it's always fun, nice and fresh to do a little recap there as well. So, not too bad on Friday. It's got potential. But I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I'm glad to do another show with you. And once again, we're inching closer and closer to the playoffs, baby. The inevitability of the Chiefs winning the AFC.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, it's coming. I mean, we may as well start there, right? Because it is fresh. The game was last night, the Bengals Ravens, and it was disappointing for many people. A lot of times we come on here and talk about a game that was potentially a bit disappointing because it was a lower score or it was one-sided. But this one, it just came down to injuries. Burrow out for the season. I'm sure you've heard at this point.
Yep.
Mark Andrews was out early. When you start both of them in your fantasy league in a week, rest of the week doesn't look too good for you. But I'm not going to make it about fantasy. It really, really is unfortunate for those guys. Lamar's still dealing with an ankle injury, so he was in and out. But Burrow, man, let's talk about Joe Burrow for a minute because poor dude played through that calf in the beginning of the season, and we talk about it every week. It seems, oh yes, he's coming back. He's looking better. It's old Burrow. He's back again. Let's see how this goes against the Ravens. And he tears a tendon in his wrist and is just out for the season. And there go the Bengals.
Yeah,
Really
no, it's true.
Aspirations to go anywhere, even if they do somehow make.
Oh, I think I lost you for a minute, Cam.
This up.
Oh, there we go. Now you're back.
Am I back?
Sorry. Yes, I lost you for a minute.
All right, yeah, man. Burrow, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I know. I exactly right. I mean, I think one thing to keep in mind is, I don't think the Bengals with, I certainly, there's certainly a chance they could have won that game. I mean, last night had Burrow been healthy and played the whole game, but if they would have lost it, they weren't going to be a lock for the playoffs. That was going to drop them to 5-5, even if Burrow was healthy. And they have a fairly tough stretch, the rest of the year. So they weren't necessarily going to be a lock for the playoffs. But yeah, at this point now, especially with, some teams choose to have a seasoned professional or a seasoned guy as a backup. And the Bengals have not gone that route. They got a guy with very limited starts, very limited experience. So it's going to be a crash course for him. And I just think with the schedule they have left, the playoffs are probably out of the question now.
Yeah, at this point, I don't know, man. Just to harp on their schedule real quick. If they have Burrow, they play I'm going to list the whole rest of the season because there are not many games left. It's the Steelers, then the Jaguars, and the Colts, very winnable. Vikings, very winnable. Steelers again with Burrow, that might be 2 wins there. And then the Chiefs, of course, they're difficult. And they end with the Browns, who don't have Deshaun Watson, but their defense always makes things difficult. So I think they do have a manageable schedule. Aside from the Chiefs, there really aren't any stud teams they're facing. It seems none of those top tiered teams anyway. So I think they definitely had playoff aspirations, and I think they could have potentially made a run with Burrow. But you're right. I don't think they beat the Steelers at all with a backup quarterback. I don't think they beat the Jaguars, and I definitely don't think they beat the Chiefs. So it's looking bleak.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And then on the other side, looking at the Ravens, I still think, the Ravens are the best I think other than the Chiefs, they're the other best team in the AFC. And I think that for some reason though, this team gets bit by the injury bug every year. And I don't understand what is going on. There's certain teams that are kind of like that. And for whatever reason, it seems like each year that the Ravens start to reach towards their potential, they start to flash being a complete team, then they just get killed with a couple injuries. Of course, it's been Lamar at times the past couple seasons, especially last year. They've had a lot of offensive line injuries now with Andrews being out for the season. Even though he wasn't having his best year, but certainly he's a very talented guy, and when healthy and playing well can take over a game. So that's a big blow for a Ravens squad that really is looking to get over that playoff hump this year.
Yeah, and the Ravens schedule looks fun, man. They're playing the Chargers, the Jaguars, the 49ers, and the Dolphins all in this home stretch. So those should all be some good games. Rounding out the year with their last 3 games being including the 49ers and the Dolphins. Those are going to be some fun games to really show how legit the Ravens are, because they did just lose to the Browns, right? They just lost 33-31 just last week. But besides that, they've looked pretty dominant in their stretch of games ever since that Steelers loss in early October. So they're definitely. I wouldn't say they're a lock for the division. Honestly, I think they're going to definitely take it, but they do have some hard matchups ahead. And if Lamar's ankle doesn't improve, if it gets worse and maybe he misses a couple games, they're not going to have they're not going to be a 12-5 team if that happens.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. So let's go back for just a minute because we got to touch on our weekly upsets, and we at least got to start with those. So starting with my week 10 upset, feeling good about the Josh Dobbs train. I took Minnesota over New Orleans, and I thought Dobbs made some impressive plays, and man, that Viking squad, they've now won 5 in a row. And as we just talked a lot about the AFC. I think the NFC, other than I think 2 elite teams, right? I think it's pretty clear that the 49ers and the Eagles, I would say, are elite teams.
Yeah.
After that, I mean, hey man, this Viking squad, why not, right? I mean, they're playing well. I mean, they're I don't think they're going to catch the Lions, but they have a chance to definitely grab one of those wild card spots. So, but either way, they got me the W, which I really badly needed in my upset picks. So that takes my record now to 3-6. So still got a lot of work to do, if I'm trying to get back towards 500. But 3-6 is my record now with getting a successful pick with Minnesota over New Orleans. What about you, Cam?
Yeah, I also have a negative record now for 2nd week in a row. I've had a heartbreaking loss. This one was the Chargers-Lions. So Lions finished them off 41-38, 3-point victory. And then again, the week before, I believe it was a 2-point victory for my pick, or for the opposing team in my pick. So some disappointment here. Fun games though, very fun games to watch. At least I'm choosing some good ones to watch on these Sundays. So I'll take the W's where I can. But not a good week for me. Hoping to turn it back around this week. I will say I'm not as confident in my pick this week, but we will get there when we get there.
Yeah, it is tough outright picking upsets, right? There's a reason why most of the upsets don't go through.
Exactly. Now, just to touch on this last week a little bit more before moving on, there were some excellent games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was the we mentioned the Browns taking the Ravens. That was surprising. The Browns actually beating the Ravens by 2 points. And then the Lions and Chargers. Man, these teams are fun. But the biggest takeaway I had from that game is that the Chargers defense is gone. I mean, they are besides I think it was a previous week against the Jets where Joey Bosa had 3 sacks, was it? He had a monster game. He's been pretty absent this season, And aside from Asante Samuel Jr. on the outside, they really have no one performing. It seems like everyone can score on them at will. And the Lions, they're a good offense, but are they a 41 point good offense? Maybe they are, but it's hard to watch this Chargers defense and have confidence in the team really making a run this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, and once again, not to belabor a point, but like Brandon Staley,
man.
right? Brandon Staley, you're supposed to be a defensive coach. Like, I just this every year, I just don't understand. I mean, what's the great NFL head coaches? Even if they have really solid defensive coordinators, like they are, I mean, just coordinators in general, they need to make a significant impact on their side of the ball. Right. And especially if you're a defensive coordinator. I mean, the league is so much about offense now. I mean, a lot of the defensive coordinators that are head coaches, a lot of times they should have at least a competent defense. And I don't understand, because the Chargers have a lot of talent. They have Derwin James, they have Bosa, they have Mack. They got some guys that can fly around, right? And they just can't seem to figure it out schematically. I mean, every time I watch the Chargers, you have guys running wide open right down the middle of the field, and they just look lost out there. So if anything, that is just a huge, that's a bad mark against Brandon Staley.
Well, one thing certain is that if a guy is running over the middle of the field, Derwin James is sure to get a penalty on them.
Yeah, 15-yarder for sure.
Each and every week.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you're right. That was your upset pick. I know that almost came through for you. Another game that was a surprising game that I really enjoyed, actually, the second half of, was actually the Texans Bengals. And I know we're talking a little retrospectively, since we already talked about the Burrow injury and all of that new news. But that was a really tight game, and I was impressed once again with CJ Stroud and his calmness. He seems like he just doesn't seem to get rattled. I mean, that Texans offensive line's not elite. It's not terrible, but it's certainly not one of the best in the league. And it just seems like he's able to move the pocket, to navigate, and he stays calm while he does that. He doesn't get happy feet. He looks down the field, and he throws a beautiful ball. So, I mean, that to me was more about, man, the Texans. If you're a Texans fan, you got to come on the show and tell us how happy you are, because y'all just totally fleeced the Browns, right, in that trade, for Watson. And then, I mean, the Watson trade not only got you those picks, but then allowed you to essentially be bad enough for a couple years, right, that you ended up with CJ Stroud as well. So overall, I mean, if I'm a Texans fan, I'm feeling very good. Even, they have a shot to make the playoffs this year. And that's, I mean, and they were, and I'll take an L if I need to. I mean, they were one of the teams that I said I didn't want to watch this year. And guess what? I was wrong, because I like watching them now. Seeing CJ Stroud throw the ball over the yard is a lot of fun. So that was an impressive win for the Texans.
Yeah, I'll take the L from last week too, when I said that this might be a game where the Bengals just prove their dominance and stomp. I mean, the Stroud is playing better under pressure than he did all throughout college, excluding that last Georgia game. He's gotten better. He's gotten significantly better as a player. And a lot of times in doing evaluations and roster construction, people forget how much players can just improve with good coaching, with more experience, with getting reps under their belt, getting into a different system, potentially one that suits them better than what they were running before. So, there was talk in the offseason when, after the draft, when they traded up from pick 12 to pick 3, while including their next year's first round pick, which many people thought would be a top 5. I mean, the power rankings on most sites, it was Cardinals were dead last, and it was the Texans right after, right? So people thought that might be a top 2 pick. And to get Will Anderson, it's like, all right, well, you're kind of selling your future for a player on defense after picking the second best quarterback in the draft at the time. That was the opinion, and that's what happened, right? He was the second pick, and you don't even have a good team around you. Why are you doing this? And so many people were questioning, but man, this whole team's coming together, right? The tackle duo, the Tunsil and Fant, are playing very well right now. Their interior is struggling a little bit, but they've had a lot of injuries, right? Like Kenyon Green and their second round pick this year, Scruggs, who was supposed to play center. He's on IR as well. So, and then you get Noah Brown having 150-yard performances every week. I mean, people are just playing well on this team. They're overperforming, and that has to do a lot with coaching. And I think Texans fans can be happy about the coaches and just everyone they've brought into the building over the last couple of years. So yeah, props to that organization in pretty much every way that counts.
Yeah, absolutely, Cam. So I got to ask you, why don't you break down for us? There was another game that ended on a last-minute field goal.
Which one's that?
Tell us about your beloved Commanders, and what are your thoughts on that game?
Okay, well, the last 3 weeks or so, I've talked about the Commanders for a minimum of 10 minutes, so I'm not going to go into them too deep this time. But I will say, the Emmanuel Forbes ejection, highly questionable.
Nonsense.
Jack Del Rio had something to say about it. I don't necessarily agree with the words he chose. If those of you who did not hear, he said basically along the lines of someone in an air-conditioned room in New York is making this call, and it's troubling for the league. I'd rather have someone who knows what they're talking about looking at a video closely. I don't care where they are. But their decision didn't make any sense to me. It was very frustrating for the team, for the coaches, for the fans. It definitely rattled the team a little bit in terms of emotions, especially right after. But someone who has not been rattled, it was a very disappointing game. It was. Seahawks won last minute. It did not look like that should have been the case for a lot of the game. But Sam Howell, his demeanor is beyond impressive, right? You talk to all his teammates back at UNC, and on the team now, and they all are saying he is so calm and collected. And a lot of people are mistaking that as not caring. He gets hyped. He gets excited. He is a team player through and through. It's just if he throws an interception or has a bad play, he's like, yeah, I know what I did wrong, and I won't do it next time. It's fine. It doesn't change who I am as a player, right? And that's a kind of cool nature that you want, honestly, in a franchise quarterback. And I definitely wasn't ready to say it a couple weeks ago when I thought he was playing well. But he comes out, he throws 44 times this game, and he has 312 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. He leads a comeback drive at the very end to tie up the game. He stays cool, and he does everything you can possibly ask at this point. And he's doing this all with his receivers dropping the ball, with one of the worst offensive lines in all of football.
Poor offensive line.
And I think that, everyone's been saying it at this point. There have been some funny quotes too. I know Rivera said something recently that almost sounded like he was trying to keep his job. It was, well, look at the team before I got here. Has the culture improved? And do we find our quarterback? It's like, okay, man, yes. Now you're probably out of the building after this.
Right? even though Rivera is the same one who said, well, if I would have noticed last year that he was good, I would have played him last year. I don't know. It's only your job to watch him in practice,
Yeah, and I think Rivera has done good things for the organization. Don't get me wrong. We were in a really bad place a few years ago, and all the turmoil with the name change and the culture and everything going on with Dan Snyder, I think he really helped stabilize the organization, help maintain a good portion of the fan base who otherwise would have been disinterested. And so thank you. And now it's time to bring in someone who's going to win a Super Bowl. So I feel confident in saying that Sam Howell has completely proven himself to the point where get some talent around this guy along the line. He has talented receivers. He does. But get some more talent around him, put him in a situation where you can fully evaluate, okay, is this guy with more talent going to take the next step to becoming that elite tier? Because you have a lot of mid-tier quarterbacks, and a lot of the fans of those teams think that they are the best quarterback after, Mahomes, Burrow, and you have that list of like 8 guys, and then it's your team's quarterback, right? And that's why a lot, Commanders put Hal there, and I think he could make that leap, but he still has a lot to prove. Of course, it is his first season playing, so I am happy with what I saw, but obviously it was a disappointing loss for the Commanders.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well said. I was impressed with. I know you touched on it. I was impressed that Hal led a great comeback drive. I thought he really orchestrated an excellent drive there. Some good play calling, some good execution. So I thought that was impressive. So you definitely can't be upset with Hal for that play. I mean, he plays like that. The Commanders will and should win a lot of games. If he plays like that. So yeah, definitely good there. All right. Any other games in Week 10 you want to hit before we take a look at a little what's coming up here in Week 11?
Kyler Murray, he's back. He's back, baby, and he looks good. And something that everyone's been saying is that, you know what? It's been a while since we've watched him play. We've had a lot of new quarterbacks play this year, right? A lot of rookies. I think it's an NFL record for number of rookies starting games. I heard that somewhere. You can fact check that if you'd like. But we've seen a lot of bad quarterback play this season. And Kyler Murray came in and reminded everyone why he's great. He's just a great quarterback. He's fun to watch. I'm rooting for him on this return. I think they keep him on his contract for the duration of it over the next few years. While everyone up until this last week in mock drafts and whatnot, it's like, oh, well, are they gonna, if they're able to take Caleb Williams or Drake May, do they? Kyler Murray's good, man. You don't move on from a great quarterback. So hopefully he can come back and show that he's great throughout the remainder of the season. But it was fun watching them beat the Falcons, even though I have a season-long bet on the Falcons. So come on, Arthur Smith, pull it together.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it was fun to see, and I think that the Cardinals are doing the right thing for sure. If he's healthy, then you play him. Not only because you want to win games, but whatever they decide to do, right? They're in a good position, because if Kyler plays really well, but they still lose a lot of games, and they feel like they really love a quarterback coming out of the draft, then like you said, I mean, Kyler's better than a lot of quarterbacks, and a lot of teams would be happy to kind of shift over some capital, right, and try to go get him. So if they're, I mean, no matter what, playing him, and then if somehow the team rallies and they win a bunch of games, and even if you don't make the playoffs, but you have a really positive end to your season, winning some games and the team building confidence with him under center again, then that should set you up for success next year. So either way, I think that the Cardinals are doing the right thing. If he's healthy and he's been cleared, play him.
Yeah, and they have some good young pieces, right? B.J. Ojulari starting to look better as the pass rusher. Paris Johnson Jr., a little bit of a rough start, but he's looking to be a bit better at this point. And, you know, their receivers are stepping up. Michael Wilson. These are all rookies, and they're all playing well for the most part when they're on the field. So good outlook for this organization as well. It's been a pretty fun season, for probably the most fun you could ask of a 2-win team.
Yeah, true.
So,
true.
Yeah. Any other games before we move on?
No, let's transition into our upset picks. So I know we like to start there for Week 11. So
all right, why don't you go
first?
Up
me first? Okay. So
you go first.
My question is, am I allowed to pick the same team 2 weeks in a row? I don't know if we ever established that rule.
Yeah, you are.
I am? Okay.
Pick the same team every week if you
want. Then until Vegas, if this team wins again, I think Vegas will catch up, and they may not be dogs anymore. But I'm going to take Minnesota again. It worked for me last week, so I'm going to take them again against Denver. Even though I got to admit, Denver, they're starting to turn things around. I know that we, alongside a lot of other people, gave them a lot of crap because they were pretty unwatchable early in the year. Not just that Dolphins game, but some of those other games, it was pretty ugly. But, all of a sudden you blink and their defense has been playing a lot better. They moved off of some of their older pieces. They moved off of Randy Gregory and Frank Clark and some of those other higher paid veteran guys that weren't producing. And they started to rotate in some younger guys, and their defense is starting to all of a sudden look better. Russell Wilson is having, it's not elite Russell Wilson, but it is, but he's definitely coming back around again a little bit, to at least serviceable compared to what he was last year. So I do think this Denver team is kind of turning a corner. They're getting a little feisty, and I think that's why Vegas has them favored. But man, I got to keep riding with Josh Dobbs until he tells me not to. You got to ride the train until it breaks down. So I'm going to take Minnesota again, a second week in a row. And right now, just to show the line, they are favored right now. I'm sorry, Broncos right now are favored by 2.5 on Fox Bet. So, man, that's that's, Vegas is giving giving Denver the edge. And of course that is a home game. So it's sort of like they're calling it a pick 'em if it was a neutral site, because I think you still get, 2.5 to 3 points for being at home. So basically Vegas doesn't even really know what to do with it. But I mean, I'm going to take the Vikings on the road.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I saw that one. It's hard to root against Josh Dobbs, but he runs hot and cold. I wasn't comfortable making that it didn't make my list. I definitely understand the pick, but man, Broncos 3-game win streak. You beat the Chiefs and the Bills in 2 back-to-back weeks. You can say all you want about the big teams, if you will, underperforming, or Josh Allen not showing up. But at the end of the day, the Broncos, with a significantly less talented roster, still pulled out the win. And Sean Payton is a good coach. He is a great coach. He is smart. People forget this because of the laughingstock the Broncos were early in the season. He just got there. He's going to make some big changes this offseason. He needs time, and he's made adjustments throughout the season. And that good teams improve throughout the season by making adjustments. And, a lot of people were joking around, oh, when can they fire Sean Payton? No, he's this team might turn around faster than some people think. I don't love their outlook. I'm not confident in it, but I think that they're going to take this win over the Vikings, and people will be talking about them a lot differently than they were a month ago. So, I've been wrong a few times about your picks on these shows, but we'll just have to watch a game this Sunday. That's a night game. That's prime time.
That is,
I'll be looking forward to it.
Which is also kind of funny, because when the schedule first came out, I was like, especially when the Broncos were really bad, right, early in the season. I always keep an eye on the future schedule, and I saw them in back-to-back primetime games because they were on Monday night this last week, right, against the Bills. And so I think that was either Monday or Sunday. I think it was Monday night. Anyway, and so I was like, man, like are they really going to keep the Broncos in 2 primetime slots? So, well, they beat the Bills that last week, and who knows, if they win this game, then it's like, I guess maybe they know something more than we do.
Yeah, so it's primetime Josh Dobbs the opposite of primetime Kirk Cousins, or how's that dynamic work?
I guess we're going to find out.
All right, so with mine, can I have several more minutes to figure this out? No, I have 2 that I'm between. I'm going to go with Philadelphia over your Chiefs.
Oh, okay,
do it. 2.5-point line, 45.5 over under, so very neutral, right? 2 good offenses, 2 good defenses. Sorry, 2 great offenses, 2 great defenses. These are probably the 2 best teams in the NFL. It's going to be a very, very fun primetime game to watch. That is Monday night, correct?
That's right. Yep.
So
Monday.
Philadelphia coming off of a bye, right? Okay. AJ Brown, number 1 receiver right now in man coverage by pretty much every metric when you look at man coverage, win percentage, and just statistics overall, including as well as his PFF grade is off the charts right now. It's like mid-90s for in man coverage. It's ridiculous. So I don't think that the Chiefs have too many elite press man corners who can contest him at the catch point. So I think there's a small advantage there. One man doesn't win games, not often anyway. So it's going to come down to the team performance. But at the end of the day, these are the 2 best teams. My Super Bowl predictions include Philadelphia and do not include Kansas City. So I'm just going to go with the team I think is slightly better, even though they're on the road. So it's not the, as I alluded to earlier, not the most confident in this pick. But I'm taking Philly. What are your thoughts on that, you Chiefs fan? You?
No, I think it makes sense. I mean, it does seem like, I don't have to go back. I don't have a stat in front of me, but it does seem like a lot of times the Super Bowl rematch, when it's the following season, it does usually seem like it's the team that lost the Super Bowl that's able to then, we can call it the revenge game or whatever, during the following game. So, it wouldn't surprise me. I think it's going to be a great game. I do think there's a pretty high likelihood that these 2 teams face off again. I mean, right now, my Super Bowl pick, As a reminder, I know mine was the Chiefs over the 49ers, which certainly still has a chance. But I think that I think it's just looking like it's going to be the Chiefs against either, I think, the Eagles or the 49ers. And that's at least right now. I know there's still a lot of football left, and certainly a lot of things can change. But I do think it's going to be those teams. So, I mean, a couple thoughts. I do think that there'll be a little bit of extra motivation for the Eagles. I mean, not that they wouldn't be motivated anyway, but
Right.
they certainly, a lot of guys in the team were on the Super Bowl team last year. And I know the teams change a little bit every year, right? I get that, but the cores of both of these teams are essentially the same. So I know that the Eagles certainly want to get that W, and I do think that the Chiefs are going to hold a little bit back because that's what they do. I think about they do that, they really do. I mean, I'm not worried about their offense. I know we're more than halfway through the season, but I mean, even last year, the Chiefs weren't blowing people away. I think people were surprised that the offense was as good as it was without Tyreek Hill. That was certainly a big talking point for much of the year last year. But the offense got even better in the playoffs. And so Andy Reid is not going to go to the deepest parts of his playbook to win this game. The Chiefs will be competitive and they'll certainly have a shot. I think it's going to be a good game, but I could definitely see the Eagles taking this one because at the end of the day, Andy Reid's not trying to beat the Eagles in the middle of the season. Andy Reid's trying to beat the team that the Chiefs faced in the Super Bowl, which could be the Eagles. So, he's going to hold some stuff back.
Maybe. I understand what you're saying. I do think I would contest that a coach is going to pull out what he has to get there, right? Because it's no guarantee. It feels like a guarantee from the outside perspective that the Chiefs, right, make the playoffs, go on a run, but that's just not how it is in the NFL. Every week is difficult for every team, right? Just because the Chiefs play, if they play the Panthers, that's a slaughter from the outside perspective, but it still requires a lot of game prep. And to say that he's going to hold back against Philadelphia, I'm not sure if that's right or not. We don't have inside knowledge, but it is an interesting point that you bring up, that because obviously the angle is winning a Super Bowl. So
yeah,
no way of knowing, but
I do have to ask you a follow-up question with that and see quick trivia for you, because I actually thought of this earlier and I had to look it up. But what can you name the two teams the very last time in the NFL there was a repeat Super Bowl that had both teams? No, okay.
No,
I didn't know the year, but I did remember. I did get it right at my quiz myself. I was like pretty sure that's the Cowboys and Bills, and that was right. So the last time that two teams faced off in the Super Bowl 2 years in a row was in 93 and 94. And of course, that was the Cowboys beating the Bills, one in a blowout and one in a little bit of a closer game.
Is that the stretch where the Bills had four
losses?
Okay.
Yeah. So one of them to the Redskins. So they lost to the Giants, then the Redskins, and then twice to the Cowboys in those Super Bowls in the early 90s. So there's been a few other times. There's obviously been multiple times. There's been many times where one of the teams has made it back, right? Winner or loser. That's happened quite a bit. But yeah, not very often that there's a rematch Super Bowl. So who knows? Well, we got a lot of season left, so we'll see what happens.
Now, one more thing on this game, the Chiefs and Eagles. I do think it probably hits the over. I know a supposed weak point of the Chiefs is their receiving core, but honestly, I think that the Chiefs offense matches up well with the Philadelphia defense, right? The Philadelphia defense has such a strong interior pass rush that really gets home against most teams, really helps out the edge rushers, sort of put them on islands. But with your interior of Tooney, Humphrey, and Smith, I think that you do mitigate a lot of that. And the Philadelphia corners, right? Slay and Bradbury have both been playing a bit worse this season than they have been in the last the few seasons prior. So I think that you have a little more time against Philadelphia, get that interior pass rush than most other teams would, and that you'll be able to find more open holes in zone and whatnot, be able to run more types of concepts against them than than other teams might be able to. So I do think it hits it over. I think it'll be a higher scoring affair than this 45.5. So if you're a betting man, take that into consideration. Now, I do want to tell you the other game I was considering was Arizona over Houston. I know we've just been talking about how great Houston is. It's a 6-point line. It's in Houston, so I ultimately just didn't want to go with the away team for such a toss-up matchup and for how well all of Houston has been playing. But man, Kyler Murray just, it felt good watching him last week. I wanted to root for him again, just from a fan perspective, right? So I didn't go with it, but I like rooting for Kyler Murray.
How much do you think the line changed with that? I mean, what do you think it would have been, right? I mean, if it's Texans by 6, I mean, I gotta think that would have been like what, 11 or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was
Kyler's
thinking
got to be
10,
worth
10,
5 or 6 points, right?
Yeah, over. Well, I don't know. Dobbs is playing great.
Well,
And,
yeah, but I don't even know who would play if they didn't have Dobbs. Who would have played?
Is it Clayton Tune? Is that the wrong team?
Maybe. Yeah.
Look this up.
Showing
Clayton Tune. Yeah. Yeah,
okay,
that's who.
Nice.
Yeah. So
I the third string quarterback for the Cardinals. That was tough. I had deep,
current second string.
Dig deep for that.
All right. So now that we have our upset picks out of the way, are there any other matchups you're looking forward to this upcoming week?
Well, I do have to have my dumpster fire game. And honestly, there really isn't any games that have two terrible teams. There are multiple games where there are a good team against a bad team. I mean, honestly, looking at the lines this week, there's some pretty big lines. I won't go with the one that you're probably afraid that I was going to say. I guess the game I'm going to have to go with is actually going to be the Chargers-Packers game. Even though both those teams aren't terrible and they both have chances for the playoffs, it's dumpster fire because of Brandon Staley's defense. His defensive coaching is a dumpster fire. And then, sorry, Packer fans, but I just don't think Jordan Love's going to cut it. I think we've already seen enough of him that, because I mean, honestly, the Packers have some weapons. They have some young weapons. They have two. Their running back tandem is one of the better, I think, talented running back tandems in the league. I know there's still offensive line. There's some offensive line issues. The defense is probably average, but I mean, honestly, there's a lot in the cupboard. There's a lot of. I mean, look at what Jordan Love has to work with compared to some of these other quarterbacks, and I don't know. I just don't think that Jordan Love is going to be the answer in the future, and I don't think the Packers think that either. So we'll see what happens, but that's the dumpster fire game for me that I probably will not be watching, which would be the Chargers Packers. But I got to say, that's a pretty weak candidate for it because there was no clear cuts. Obviously, I also thought of the Giants Commanders, but I have Sam Howell in fantasy, and I got to root him on. So I couldn't call that game.
Yeah, the Commanders Giants game scares me just because the Giants always play so well against the Commanders. It seems each and every year, at least in recent history, right? Over the last few years, it's been every time the Commanders are favored, it doesn't seem to go well. At least in my brain,
especially big favorites. They're more than a
touchdown. 9.5 right now.
Right.
So it's a little scary. I mean, Commanders should handily take this one, but it feels weird saying that because I've hardly been able to over the last since I've been alive. But to touch on on the Packers, I want to once again just push back a little bit on Jordan Love. Now, he has not been good. Period. He has not. But neither has anyone else, right? On that team, all the talent is very young. They're all very inexperienced, and a lot of them have been underperforming. Christian Watson has not looked good this season. I'm pretty sure everyone except maybe Packers fans will have seen that if they watch Packers games. He hasn't looked that good. And besides that, his receiving core is a rookie in Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs. And Dontavian Wicks has been getting starting time. He's a rookie as well. Rookie, right? Yes, this year. I wasn't sure if it was this year or last year. So then, they drafted 2 tight ends this year, so 2 more rookies, Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. And they're not helping him out much, right? A lot of times they finish their routes, they sort of sit around. They don't necessarily try to keep moving to get open. They don't extend plays for him. They run their routes and are still learning. And then the offensive line has been pretty putrid as well. David Bakhtiari just can't get on a football field. So I do think that there's a lot to build and a lot of experience that is needed. They'll probably sign some offensive veterans this offseason to help with that lack of experience on the offensive side, because Jordan Love is still a young man himself, right? He's 23? 23, 20, 25? Really? Oh, he just turned 25 2 weeks ago. Happy birthday, Jordan Love. So I think they stick with him next year. I really do. But I wouldn't blame anyone for saying he's not the answer and that he hasn't looked good, because he hasn't. I'm just making a few excuses for him right now.
Yep. That's all good, man. That's all we're here for, have a little bit of fun with some different perspectives. So I mean, there's still some other games on there. Cam, are there any other games that you want to touch on before we wrap up?
Honestly, looking at these a bit closer, there are a lot of games that should be one-sided, right? Lions play the Bears, not much to talk about there. Cowboys play the Panthers, not much to talk about there. I'd say the 49ers, Buccaneers should be one-sided as well. Now, there are two games that I think will be that could be close. I think the Steelers-Browns is going to be interesting. I'm not sure how that one's going to play out. Pretty sure it'll be a defensive game.
Yeah, I would say.
I don't even know who's starting for the Browns this year. We talked about Burrow.
Is it PJ Tucker?
PJ Walker, you mean?
Or sorry, sorry. Not PJ
Walker.
Tucker.
Okay.
He's playing basketball right now. But yeah, PJ Walker.
Yeah, I know Dorian Thompson-Robinson looked good in the preseason, and then I think he had to start earlier and look pretty bad.
Yeah.
They just worked out Joe Flacco this week, I believe. So they don't really know what they're doing at quarterback, but this defense is so good that, and the Pittsburgh offense is not the best right now. So I feel like Najee Harris has been playing better the last few weeks, just from an every play standpoint. So that's been interesting to see. Not sure where that came from exactly, but this game could be scrappy, could be very close, might be a few players fighting here and there as well. So I'll be looking forward to watching that one. And then the other one that I think will be very intriguing, I'll say, is the Jets and Bills game. Because the Bills coming off of a bad loss to Denver, Josh Allen not looking good. The Jets already beat the Bills. Was that week 1? I think that was week 1.
Yeah, it was week 1. Yeah, it was the same time Rodgers got hurt.
Yeah, that game was wild. So I with the punt return, kick return, punt return, right? So I think a lot of people are going to be excited to watch that game. And if the Bills lose, man, their outlook is not looking good.
They have a tough schedule, the Bills, down the stretch.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if that whole coaching staff makes it through to next season as well.
I mean, at some point, McDermott's been firing everybody else. At some point, he's probably going to have to go.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, man. That's pretty much it for the games I want to touch on. You have anything else?
No, I think it's been a lot of fun. It was good to catch up on everything, and man, it's been a lot of fun. We got a lot of great stuff coming for football. And then we will let we'll let everybody know when our next show will come with Thanksgiving next week. So we'll probably try to get it in early in the week, but we will see with everything coming. So either way, we'll definitely get a chance to get in there and talk about that. So y'all I hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy watching football. And as we get closer to Turkey Day.
Yeah, guys, maybe we'll try to do it Tuesday, but we'll talk about it a little bit more. And also, for all you NFL draft nerds out there who are grinding the tape or at least interested in the prospects at this point in the season, I just put out a new article on the Camalytics blog about the top 25 offensive linemen and gave each 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses, or talked about that group. Coming up, there are a lot of good offensive linemen in this upcoming class. Got me excited, so I grinded the tape over last month a bit that I have discussed on this pod, talked about it a little bit last week as well. So go check that out if you are interested in the NFL draft or your team needs an offensive lineman, which most teams seem to at this point. So yeah, go check that out. We'll leave the link in the description below in YouTube. And otherwise, you can see us, find us on YouTube, find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Make sure you like, comment, and smash that subscribe button. And have a great weekend watching football. And we will see you hopefully early next week. Peace, guys.
Peace.